Chapter 241. Entering the Sealed Land. Rumble. Suddenly the sky above the drill grounds turned dark. There were loud rumbling sounds. The crowd raised their heads and saw several huge bird-type spirit beasts. When they spread their wings, they spanned 100 meters. When the spirit beasts flew together, they covered the entire sky. These are the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's guardian spirit beasts, Heavenly Wind Vultures. They are tyrants of rank 6 flying spirit beasts. I did not expect all of them to show up, everyone said in shock as they recognized the spirit beasts. The huge Heavenly Wind Vultures created an intense wind. They circled before landing on the drill grounds. Kashin called the team over and quickly headed to one of the Heavenly Wind Vultures. Everyone quickly followed after her. The huge Heavenly Wind Vulture resembled the red-tailed eagle from Earth. Its back feathers were light brown, and it was lighter on its belly. Its tail feathers were reddish-brown. However, on both ends of its wings were sharp claws. They were extremely sharp and had reverse hooks. When it spread its wings, it would cover an area of several hundred square meters. At the neck of the Heavenly Wind Vulture, there was an old man with a dark complexion. He was the Heavenly Wind Vulture's coachman. Xiao Chen and the others walked over. The old man stomped his foot on the Heavenly Wind Vulture's back. The Heavenly Wind Vulture immediately cried out, created an intense wind, and rushed to the sky. A strong wind blew from both sides, and a few weaker core disciples were nearly blown down. They were startled. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's main hall's second elder watched as the many Heavenly Wind Vultures flew off. He turned to Zhong Lai and said, "First Elder, do you feel at ease letting this group of young people go?" Zhong Lai said indifferently, "What else do you want me to do? Repeat the mistakes of the previous generation." Despite advising him for so long, he was unwilling to sacrifice these young people. He would rather sacrifice himself. Look at what happened in the end. Since the ancient times, only those who lived could be considered geniuses. Regardless of how outstanding you were, after you died, you would no longer be a genius. The third elder beside them said, "Back then, Tianhe had indeed underestimated the strength of those demons. He was overconfident. Otherwise, there would not have been such a tragedy." Zhong Lai continued, "Indeed. As long as we get rid of these projections, the subspace connecting to the Tianwu continent will break on its own. Even if the 3 Holy Lands do not send someone, we can deal with it ourselves. I am still quite confident in Liu Chen's strength." Up in the clouds, the Heavenly Wind Vulture flew faster and faster. The strong wind made the crowd put in their best efforts, but even so, they could barely hang on. Soon, Lingyun mountain range was far behind them. Xiao Chen observed his surroundings. There was a total of 11 Heavenly Wind Vultures, of which, there was a core disciple leading them. Liu Chen and Lu Ruyu were on the remaining Heavenly Wind Vulture. His spiritual sense also counted 10 others. Xiao Chen thought to himself, "It looks like they selected 100 core disciples as well as 10 hidden geniuses like Liu Chen and Lu Ruyu." After they traveled for an unknown period through the clouds, the Heavenly Wind Vultures slowed down. A desolate land appeared before everyone. It was broad, flat land with limitless boundaries. There was no grass on the ground as far as the eye could see. It was completely bare except for rocks of all sizes. There were no signs of life at all. It seemed completely dead. The 11 Heavenly Wind Vultures all cried out and landed rapidly. Everyone quickly jumped down and looked around their surroundings. They all had an uncomfortable feeling in their hearts. Liu Chen had a gentle smile on his face as he gathered everyone to him. He said, "The place in front is the location of the seal. Everyone, please make sure you are wearing your identity tokens. If you do not have them, come here and get the spare tokens from me. Otherwise, you will be injured by the boundaries accidentally." Everyone normally wore their identity token on them. They all checked themselves. No one forgot their identity token. N. Very good. Then follow me under the lead of your team captains. Don't run about on your own. The atmosphere was incredibly strange. Even without Liu Chen saying anything, they would not have run about on their own. Everyone followed Liu Chen as they walked towards the front slowly. Soon, Liu Chen suddenly vanished before their eyes. The people following also disappeared. Kashin explained, "There is no need to worry. They have crossed the boundary. They are fine." After the team captains explained, no one panicked. The crowd continued walking, and soon, they felt like they had stepped through a formless barrier. Then, the scene before them suddenly changed. An ancient well appeared before them. The people who vanished earlier were all there, all gathered beside the well. The ancient well was no more than a meter tall, but it was very wide. It was about 3 meters in diameter. The clear water within was like a smooth mirror. There were no ripples on the surface. Even when the wind blew, there were no ripples in the water. It seemed somewhat strange. It was like the ancient well was hiding some horrifying monster. Around the ancient well were 4 old men dressed in black. They stood in the corners like wooden pillars. Further beyond, there was a group of bladesmen from the Divine Saber camp. They were all standing there, expressionless. When Liu Chen saw everyone had arrived, he nodded at only of the black-clothed old men. The wooden pillar-like old man slowly raised his head. His face had withered like a tree branch. It looked very scary. He said hoarsely, "The name of this well is reincarnation. Those with bone ages more than 24 years should leave immediately. Otherwise, you will be sent to an unknown space." Liu Chen said, "Senior, we have checked all their bone ages. The numbers are right, too. You can rest assured." The old man glanced at Liu Chen. A bitter smile appeared on his withered face as he said, "I know your father. They are truly cowardly. They don't even have the guts to make a trip here. I wish you all good luck. I am going to open the seal. Remember, only 10 people can go in together." The 4 old men turned around and faced the ancient well. They each took out a strip of jade and made all sorts of hand seals at a rapid speed. "This is the sealing formation from the ancient era," Xiao Chen thought to himself. Unfortunately, aside from the 3 holy lands, the exact details of the formation have been lost in the Tianwu continent. ZZ. Suddenly, light appeared on the calm water surface. It was extremely dazzling. The calm water began churning. A huge whirlpool slowly appeared on the water surface. The center of the whirlpool was a boundless black hole. It was unknown where it led. When Liu Chen saw the situation, he immediately said anxiously, "Murong Chong, take your team down first. We will follow the order of the wind cloud list. Go, one by one." There was no hesitation on Murong Chong's face. He took the lead and jumped into the whirlpool. The 10 people of his team jumped in, one after another. There were no signs of activity. They were instantly sucked into the black hole. These were the elites of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion core disciples. These people all had stronger mental states compared to other cultivators. When facing the unknown, they did not overly hesitate. Soon, it came to Xiao Chen and his team's turn. Kashin took the lead and jumped in. Xiao Chen looked at that bottomless, spinning black hole, then followed after. The instant he was sucked into the black hole, Xiao Chen's body disintegrated into countless particles. However, he did not feel anything. His consciousness was a blur. After an unknown period, perhaps forever or perhaps an instant, Xiao Chen felt his body reassemble itself back together. He landed firmly on the ground. This was a strange space. The ground composed of black mud. He raised his head and saw a red moon hanging high in the air. It was utterly scarlet. It was incredibly queer. Occasionally, there were strange black birds, about the size of crows, circling in the air. They were crying out repeatedly, making people feel frustrated. After Xiao Chen landed, Liu Heng and the others slowly appeared. 9 of them gathered together and looked around. However, they did not discover Yun Kashin. Zhong Lai looked around and felt it was odd. He said, "Why do we not see Yun Kashin? Where are the other people from the other teams? Stop looking, I am here." Suddenly, Yun Kashin appeared behind them. "I just went to take a look at the surroundings." Another one of the female disciples, Lu Jia, asked, somewhat worried, "What about the others? Did we separate from them? What's going on?" Yun Kashin raised her head to look at the sky. A grave look appeared on her calm face. She said, "Wait for a while before asking me questions. Prepare for battle now." Xiao Chen had already placed his right hand on the saber's hilt. The strange birds in the sky had an evil aura. They had been circling above their heads without leaving. Yun Kashin said quickly, "These are blood crows. They are rank 4 demonic beasts. They live on blood. Their rank should be higher in the demonic world. The most important thing is they explode when they die. Yi Chen, I will leave these blood crows to you. Attacks with a lightning attribute can stop them from exploding when they die. Liu Heng, you are in charge of defense. If Xiao Chen is unable to kill them all, you just have to block them. There is no need to kill them. As for the rest, stay still temporarily." Pu Si. Right after Yun Kashin spoke, 3 blood crows in the air dove downward. When looking from afar, it looked like 3 scarlet arrows falling from the sky. Ka Ca. Xiao Chen did not wait for the blood crows to reach them. He immediately pulled out the lunar shadow saber. A snow-white saber light appeared in the dark space. Xiao Chen hacked out 3 times and 3 pure lightning attributed saber chi were sent out in a flash. Scarlet blood filled the air. The 3 blood crows split into 2 halves and fell from the sky. A black aura poured incessantly from their wounds. The electric light Xiao Chen left behind stuck to the wound, giving off a zzz sound. Before he had the chance to take a breath, the sky turned dark, and several hundred blood crows flew over. The sound of their wings flapping was very loud. Xiao Chen had a calm expression on his face. The instant the blood crows drew near, he shouted, "Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Pu Si. Pu Si." Xiao Chen's figure flashed in the air, saber light flew everywhere. A limitless number of saber chi launched at the crowd of blood crows. Every time Xiao Chen changed a position, he sent out 20 streams of saber chi. Xiao Chen changed his position a total of 81 times and sent out 16-20 streams of saber chi. Each saber chi took out a large group of blood crows. When Xiao Chen landed, the ground was full of mutilated blood crow corpses. With the pure state of thunder, the electric light was stuck to the wound without scattering. Seeing the killing power of this move, Xiao Chen felt somewhat astonished. He did not expect that after he had comprehended saber chi that the attacks of the disordered dance of 1,000 years would reach such a level. In the past, when he was a martial master, he could only send out limited saber light. At that time, he would not be able to bring out even a tenth of its might. When he became a martial grand master and comprehended saber light, he was still only able to bring out under half its true power. Now he had reached martial saint and could use saber chi. He could bring out the true might of disordered dance of 1,000 years. A heavy stench of blood permeated the entire area. When people smelled it, they could not help but retch. When even more blood crows in the distance smelled the stench, they flew over. The whole sky was filled with blood crows. This made the already incredibly dark space become completely dark. Everyone's vision was significantly impaired. Xiao Chen looked at Yun Kashin beside him. "What should we do? I cannot use that earlier move too often. The amount of essence exhausted is great. There are at least 10,000 blood crows here." The faces of the other 8 behind them were somewhat unsightly. This was something no one had expected. The moment they arrived at this odd place, they had already run into such trouble even before they met any demons. These blood crows were only rank 4 demonic beasts. With the strength of their group, they were simply too weak. Any one of them would be able to kill at least 10 blood crows easily. However, when the numbers were high enough, they became quite horrifying. The most important thing was that the blood crow would explode upon death. The might from that explosion was equivalent to the full-powered attack of a medial-grade martial saint. Young Kashin pointed to a huge blood crow flying in the sky. She said, "Look there, that blood crow should be the king of this group of blood crows. Once we kill it, the other blood crows will automatically disperse." Xiao Chen raised his head to take a look. He saw a huge blood crow about the size of an eagle. It had hidden itself behind several hundred blood crows, and if he did not look carefully, he could not see it. Xiao Chen shook his head. "If it does not come down, we can't do anything about it. Unless there is someone with a flying martial technique. Only when a cultivator reached martial king could they fly. Other than that, they could only do so if they were a peak superior grade martial saint and had a wind attributed martial spirit. Besides cultivation, if one wanted to fly without relying on an external object, they had to learn a flying martial technique. However, flying martial techniques were rare. Their value was higher than peak superior grade earth-ranked martial techniques. Of course, if Xiao Chen was here alone, he could summon out the silver warship. However, the silver warship would reveal Xiao Chen's identity. He would not use it unless he had no other choice. Yun Kashin pondered deeply as she said, "Leave the Blood Crow King to me. We will retreat first. With so many blood crows, the next wave of attacks will not be coming from just one direction." The two of them retreated, protecting the other 8 people behind them. They waited for the next wave of attacks from the blood crow. Ga Ji. Ga Ji. The blood crows in the sky cried out repeatedly. When the 10,000 blood crows all cried out together, the sound was sharp and piercing. Even before they attacked, they already made unsettled everyone. Nobody knew why, but the blood crows all turned patient. They cried non-stop as their blood-red eyes stared at the group without attacking. The birds were whittling away at their fighting spirit. "Damn it! Can you be more straightforward?" Gao Yong could not resist cursing out at the blood crows. The characteristics of Qianduan Peak's martial techniques were blunt and direct. They were famed for having a ferocious might. Gao Zhang's character was clearly in line with this. When he encountered demonic beasts that could explode like the blood crows, it was extremely agonizing. He had the strength, but was unable to utilize it. Just as the group was about to run out of patience, the blood crows in the sky suddenly stopped their strange cries. The noisy space suddenly became quiet. Only the sound of wind could be heard from the sky. It was extremely quiet, a very sharp contrast from earlier. This made the group feel anxious. They could not help but tighten their grips on their saber hilts. Everyone knew, this was only the calm before the storm. Hu Kai. Suddenly, there were countless shrieks of the air being torn apart. In the next moment, a strange red glow appeared on the blood crows. There were many bright spots in the sky, like thousands of houses lighting up lamps at night. It illuminated the sky with a crimson radiance. There were layers upon layers of blood crows in the sky. They were like countless red arrows piercing through the air, and now they were rushing at the group at high speed. Yun Kashin quickly said, "Aside from Yi Chen, the others are not allowed to draw your sabers from the scabbard. Zhong Lai, come to my side. We will make a move together. The other can only use their scabbards to attack the blood crows." Azure Dragon Tail Whip. Xiao Chen executed the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring art. He moved quickly in an arc above the group and killed the blood crows from the first layer. However, there were simply too many blood crows. The second layer of blood crows immediately flew over. With Yun Kexin's instructions, the others did not dare draw their sabers. They could only use the scabbard to knock the blood crows to the ground. They did not even dare to use too much strength. They were afraid of the blood crows exploding if they died. While their hands were tied by the situation, they were surrounded by peril. Of the entire group, only Mu Heng was in a relaxed state. He circulated the purple jade body tempering art and was covered in a purple glow. The blood crows were only rank 4 demonic beasts, and were not able to break through his defenses. The sharp long beaks that could pierce through iron gave off ding ding dang dang sounds when they hit Mu Heng's body. He remained unharmed, and instead, the beaks of some blood crows broke. Hu Kai. Yun Kashin, who had been dodging, suddenly drew her saber. There was a flash of saber light and it pierced through a blood crow's heart. It did not even have the opportunity to explode, it simply fell to the ground as a corpse. Yun Kashin told Zhong Lai, the reaction of the blood crow is very fast. They only need half a second to initiate an explosion. If you have the confidence of killing them in half a second, you may make a move. Zhong Lai had a calm expression, and was not in a rush to make a move. As he dodged the blood crows, he observed Yun Kexin's movements very carefully. Su. After a while, Zhong Lai found a solution. He drew his scabbard and clouds appeared from nowhere. When the clouds scattered, the tiny saber chi was launched into the air. Everywhere the saber chi went, it would pierce through all the blood crows instantly. In a short moment, several hundred blood crows died. Zhong Lai waved his saber and the tiny saber chi vanished. He shouted, "Everlasting startling cloud! Explode!" The everlasting startling cloud containing Zhong Li's small perfection saber intent suddenly exploded. The thin line appeared once again and turned into a boundless light spreading out. Each tiny strand of light was actually saber chi infused with saber intent. Its speed and strength had reached the limit of an inferior grade martial saint. Bang! 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 In the next instant, the groups of blood crows fell like rain. This attack had killed several thousand blood crows, and relieved the others. When Yun Kashin saw the situation, her expression did not relax. Instead, her crescent-shaped eyebrows were knitted tightly in a frown. She threw out a medicinal pill for recovering essence to Zhong Lai. Don't force yourself. Recover your essence quickly. We have not reached the time to use our trump cards yet. Mu Heng, protect him for now. When Zhong Lai heard this, he felt slightly embarrassed. This move was indeed very essence intensive. It had exhausted about 2/3 of his essence. However, its killing power was clear to see. He originally thought that even if Yun Kashin did not praise him, she would not criticize him. Who knew, he would still get criticized like this. Zhong Lai threw the medicinal pill into his mouth. He immediately felt a cooling sensation. After a while, the essence in his dantian recovered quickly. In a short moment, he had recovered 1/3 of his essence. This was the rank 6 white cloud pill. It could instantly recover 1/3 of a cultivator's essence immediately. After that, it would replenish all the essence in 10 minutes. It was worth 500 inferior grade spirit stones. Zhong Lai did not expect Yun Kashin to be so generous. His impression of her could not help but change greatly. Ga Ji. Ga Ji. The huge blood crow king in the air let out 2 strange cries. All the blood crows immediately stopped attacking. They flapped their wings and returned to the sky. Yun Kashin looked at Zhong Lai and said, "Unless you have no other choice, do not exhaust too much essence at this time. There is still a long way to go." Zhong Lai did not dare to refute her. He knew he had been somewhat rash. He did his best to quickly replenish his exhausted essence. The blood crow's attack only lasted about 5 minutes. However, the density of the attacks was too high. Everyone was feeling somewhat weary. Woo woo. Suddenly, the blood crow king let out a long crow's cry. Under the red moon, a large group of black dots could be seen in the distant sky. When they heard the cries, they flew over in a dense pack. After a moment, there were another 10,000 blood crows in the sky. The sky was completely black, and when the group saw it, their scalps went numb. Xiao Chen looked at the sky calmly. After thinking for a while, he said, "We have to kill the Blood Crow King. Otherwise, this will never end. Everyone will be eaten alive." Kashin said indifferently, "After this wave of attacks, I will deal with it. Every time it summons more blood crows, its strength will decrease." Without giving the group too much time, the next wave of attacks came very quickly. This time, Zhong Lai did not use the everlasting startling cloud. He infused his saber intent into his saber chi. His saber kept dancing around. Every saber chi he sent out would kill one blood crow. Xiao Chen, Zhong Lai, and Kashin did their best to kill the blood crows. The others used their scabbards to block them. Occasionally, there would be someone in danger, but Mu Heng would rush over and block the attacks of the blood crow with his body, so there were no weak points. As time passed, the corpses of the blood crows piled up on the ground. "I can't bear it any longer. This group of little things is too tiresome." Gao Yong suddenly shouted and drew his huge saber. "I'll smash you all to death." Shua. Hundreds of blood crows circulating in the sky suffered an attack from the horrifying huge saber. They were chopped into half and blood fell from the sky like rain. When Gao Yong saw all these, he laughed out loud. "They are just rank 4 demonic beasts. Yet, you all feared them so much. I can kill them all alone." When Xiao Chen turned around and saw all this, he was greatly startled. He hated that he could not use his saber to kill this wretch. Kashin's previously calm face changed greatly. She shouted in a loud voice, "Quick, run! ZZ!" The blood crow corpses chopped into 2 halves did not have any electricity suppressing their wounds. The black aura starting burning up. Boom! More than 100 blood crow bodies exploded. It created an intense shockwave. Gao Yong was blasted into the air. Then he vomited 6 mouthfuls of blood before falling back to the ground miserably. Kashin's warning was too slow. There were a few who did not react in time. They were also instantly blasted into the air. The force generated from more than 100 blood crows exploding at the same time was equivalent to an inferior grade martial king. Almost no one was able to escape completely unscathed. Aside from Xiao Chen, Zhong Lai, and Kashin, who were further away and had barely avoided the explosion, only Mu Heng did not seem to be severely injured after the explosion. The remaining people all lost their ability to continue fighting. They were lying on the ground in pain. It was difficult for them to even stand up. As for Gao Yong, who was the main cause of this disaster, he had already fainted. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. This was the terror of the blood crows. A martial grand master would be able to kill a lone blood crow alone. Even if he was injured by the explosion, he would not be severely injured. However, when there were many of this type of demonic beast and they exploded together, even a martial king would find it difficult to deal with. Fortunately, this type of blood crow would not explode for no reason. They would only explode before their death. Otherwise, if these 10,000 blood crows rushed down and exploded, even a martial king would be blasted to oblivion, not even leaving behind a corpse. Of course, a martial king could fly, so it would be easy for him to flee. There were already 6 people who could not fight anymore. The blood crows above them still continued to attack incessantly. When Kashin saw the situation, he said, "Yi Chen and Zhong Lai, don't hold back. We will kill this batch first before making further plans." With the aid of the rank 6 white cloud pill, Zhong Lai had already recovered his essence to its peak state. When he heard what Kashin said, he immediately obeyed. Zhong Lai utilized his small perfection saber intent completely, infusing it into the Lingyun saber technique's aura. He shouted and executed the 16th move, Everlasting Startling Cloud. Boom. Countless thread-like saber chi flew everywhere. The horrifying scene appeared once again. Instantly, thousands of blood crows ruptured without having the chance to explode. They were smashed by the saber chi, turning them into a mess of blood. A large amount of blood rained down from the sky. Flight on wings, disordered dance of 1,000 years. Xiao Chen pushed his feet off the ground and leapt into the air. This time, he did not hold back at all. He poured his essence incessantly into his saber blade. A pure lightning attributed energy was infused into the saber chi. The berserk saber chi flashed by at the speed of lightning. The corpses of the blood crows filled the ground. When Xiao Chen landed, the number of dead blood crows on the ground was no less than Zhong Li's everlasting startling cloud. Heavenly melody explosion. Yun Kashin shouted and the slender saber in her hand trembled continuously. The sound of the initial trembling was very soft, it could barely be heard. However, it slowly got louder. In the end, it was like thunder roaring, shaking the sky. Many blood crows fell from the sky with seemingly perfect bodies. However, if they were sliced open, one would discover that their hearts were all crushed into powder. Death by a shattered heart. What a horrifying move, Xiao Chen thought to himself in astonishment. This move was likely to have the same effect at human cultivators. Using sound waves to attack the heart, they would not know how to defend against it. The techniques of the three people killed the 10,000 blood crows in a short while. The blood crow king in the sky did not give up. He let out a summoning cry once more. Yun Kashin made use of this time to take out a map to hand to Xiao Chen. There is a forest on this map. Lead everyone there. I will lure this blood crow king away. I will join up with the group later. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to take the map. He had a calm expression as he said to Yun Kashin, "Let me lure away the Blood Crow King. I am confident of a 70% chance of killing the Blood Crow King. I will meet up with the group after that. I know you can kill the Blood Crow King. However, you are not able to lure it away." Yun Kashin stuffed the map into Xiao Chen's hand. Only the purest blood of a virgin can make these blood crows go crazy. You can indeed kill the Blood Crow King. However, that does not mean you can lure it away. If you are not able to lure it away and have to fight here, it would be difficult to keep the remaining 6 people alive. Despite Yun Kashin's cold exterior, I did not expect her to have such a kind heart and consider details like this. Xiao Chen could not help but be somewhat surprised. Xiao Chen put away the map and said sincerely, "Then you have to be careful. Remember, you have to meet up with us later." Yun Kashin nodded and said, "When I was training outside, I met with this kind of demonic beast before. I am very familiar with their habits. I will be fine. I will leave first." Pu Si. After Yun Kashin spoke, she placed her left palm on the sharp saber blade. She leapt high up into the air and slit her left palm, causing some blood to spurt out in the air. The thick smell from Yun Kashin's blood seemed to contain some kind of magic. Ga Ji. Ga Ji. The remaining blood crows in the sky all turned berserk. They all flew wildly towards the blood. Even the Blood Crow King stopped his summoning. It flapped its wings wildly, creating a strong wind. It left behind a series of red after images in the air as it chased after Yun Kashin. The dense group of blood crows all flew away. The red moon reappeared above them once again. The danger was temporarily averted. Xiao Chen took out his blood replenishing pills and gave all the injured people one. The blood replenishing pills had very good effects on internal injuries. Furthermore, it took effect very fast. Xiao Chen refined them specially for use during combat. Although this medicinal pill was not of a high rank, it was sufficient even for a martial king to use. After consuming this pill, they would be able to recover the basic ability to move around very soon. After Xiao Chen distributed the pills, he looked at the unconscious Gao Yong. When he did so, he immediately felt his anger flaring up. If this fellow had not done such a stupid thing, everyone would not have gotten injured. Kashin would not have to put herself in danger. The current situation was not exactly safe either. Based on Kashin's tone, everywhere in this strange space was dangerous. There was danger everywhere. The blood crows were simply the appetizers. It would only become more and more dangerous. They had to move steadily and surely, preserving their strength at all times. Only then could they walk to the end. Xiao Chen recollected his thoughts. Although he did not like this person, he was one of his comrades after all. He could not simply leave him behind. He said to Mu Heng, "Carry this fellow." Liu Chen said in dissatisfaction, "No way, I feel pissed simply looking at him. There is no way I am carrying him. If you don't carry him, then who will?" Before Xiao Chen could finish speaking, Zhong Lai smiled and said, "I have exhausted too much of my essence. The others are injured. Xiao Chen is the vice captain and has to lead the way. Aside from you, who else can do it? Furthermore, you have the greatest physical strength." Mu Heng was helpless, he could not find a reason to reject the order. Hence, he could only agree to this menial task. Xiao Chen did not harp on the issue. He told the injured people to treat their injuries quickly. Then, he took out the map and looked at it carefully. The map was very detailed, it encompassed the entirety of this space. Xiao Chen looked for where they were now, before starting to look for the forest Kashin mentioned. The Black Forest took up a very large section on the map, almost half of it. Behind the forest was a mountain range. There was a palace on top of an overhanging cliff, specially demarcated with a red dot. Xiao Chen looked at the map and muttered to himself, "Looks like our final destination is this palace. However, in order to get to the palace, we have to go through this forest. We should go to the forest first. Hopefully, Kashin can return safely." After Xiao Chen put away the map, he called everyone together. After he pointed out the direction, they all rushed toward the forest with all their might. After they had gone far away, a strange black aura came out from the ground where they had fought. The black aura gathered together and eventually turned into a human-shaped figure. It was a man who was extremely pale. He looked at the direction Kashin left in and stuck out his tongue greedily. He laughed sinisterly, "I have not smelled such a fragrant virgin's blood for a long time already. No wonder the blood crows I reared disobeyed." At this moment, a similar situation was happening to the other teams. Each team encountered the attacks of a large flock of blood crows. Murong Chong shouted and moved quickly in the air. He dodged a red blood arrow the blood crow king spat out. With the aid of the flying martial technique, Murong Chong could fly freely in the air. Each time he dodged, his intense speed would cause friction in the air, creating a piercing sonic boom. Pu-si. Murong Chong swung his saber casually and several blood crows were chopped into half. The Blood Crow King was aware of the terror of Murong Chong. Hence, it had been controlling the Blood Crow to harass Murong Chong incessantly. This created a significant obstacle for him, and he could not find an opportunity to make a move. This is never-ending. Peerless lunar shadow. The blood crows charging him incessantly caused Murong Chong to lose his patience. He used one of Qingyan Peak's 7 secret techniques, Peerless Lunar Shadow. 2 crescent moons appeared before Murong Chong. The crescent moons intersected each other, forming a cross as they silently slashed across. In the next instant, a huge amount of blood spurted out, dyeing the 2 crescent moons scarlet. The surrounding blood crows all fell like rain. The 2 scarlet crescent moons flew back, one was in front and the other behind, sandwiching Murong Chong in the middle. They turned into a full moon. Hu Kai. The instant the crescent moons joined together, Murong Chong flashed by in the air. Blood spurted out from the middle of the Blood Crow King's huge body. It was split in half. Murong Chong's handsome figure appeared behind the Blood Crow King. He was holding a bloody demonic core in his hand. Behind him was a dark red full moon, slowly rising up and dyeing the sky scarlet. Under the illumination of the red light, Murong Chong stood upright holding his saber. There was a certain unspeakable beauty about it. The corpse of the Blood King Crow fell from the sky with a pu tong. The remaining blood crows immediately scattered. The other disciples on the ground immediately heaved a sigh of relief. A Baikan Peak Core disciple looked at Murong Chong in the sky and sighed. He is already very close to having a great perfection mysterious phenomenon. Murong Chong is not the top ranker on the wind cloud list for nothing. It is likely an inferior grade martial king would not be a match for him. Another person chimed in as well, that is definitely so. The greatest advantage a martial king has over a martial saint is the ability to fly. Since Murong Chong has a flying martial technique, this advantage is neutralized. Even in the face of a medial grade martial king, he would be able to hold his ground. Stop admiring him, he is of a different level from us. His strength is firmly within the top 10 amongst the younger generation in the Great Qin nation. All we can do is to try and compete for the top 10 within Zaihe province. As the full moon slowly vanished, Murong Chong landed on the ground expressionlessly. His gaze swept past the other 9 people very quickly. Everyone immediately felt a faint pressure and they stopped their discussions. A Qianduan Peak disciple walked over to Murong Chong and asked, "Senior brother Murong, are you alright?" Murong Chong sheathed his saber and said indifferently, "They are just rank 4 demonic beasts. What can happen to me? Where should we be going to next?" This person asked with a doubtful expression as he took 2 steps forward. Bang! Just as this person was only 1 step away from Murong Chong, Murong Chong suddenly shot out his hand, piercing into this person's chest with his palm. This person's body started trembling intensely. A black figure came out from his body. When the black figure revealed himself, he revealed an extremely pale complexion. Suddenly, he vomited a big mouthful of blood. His originally pale face turned even paler. The black figure looked at Murong Chong incredulously and said, "How did you discover me?" Murong Chong said indifferently, "Within the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, there is no core disciple who dares to be within 3 steps of me." Pu Si. The black figure vomited another mouthful of blood. He looked at Murong Chong in horror. Then he quickly turned around and dashed off into the distance. His speed was as fast as lightning. In an instant, he was more than 1,000 meters away. Murong Chong looked at the fleeing black figure, but did not chase after him. After a moment, there was a loud bang. The fleeing black figure suddenly exploded into many pieces. A core disciple revealed an alarmed expression. He asked, "What was that? How could it enter our bodies?" "Shadow Demon," Murong Chong said indifferently. "It is one of the subordinate clans to the Blood Demon clan, who are one of the 9 royal clans in the demonic world abyss. It can only enter into a dead body. You just have to be careful." "Then, what about senior brother Cheng?" that person asked in a quivering voice as he pointed at the Qianduan Peak Core disciple on the ground. Murong Chong turned around and said indifferently, "Dead." After he spoke, everyone took a deep breath of cold air. This was the first time they had felt so close to death. There were some who rejoiced and some who worried. Not all the teams were like Murong Chong's and Yun Kexin's teams. Their teams did not have too many casualties. High in the sky, there was a huge blood crow carrying the corpses of 10 Heavenly Saber Pavilion Core disciples on its back. A shadow demon was standing on its head as he chuckled, 10 fresh corpses. Master will be happy. On another battlefield, the ground was covered in blood crow corpses. A heavy stench of blood permeated the air. The huge body of the Blood Crow King was lying on the ground in pieces. Not far from the Blood Crow King, there was one person inspecting the Shadow Demon's corpse. The other 9 people were all releasing a heavy killing chi. Some were wiping their sabers, some sitting quietly, and some looked around their surroundings. All of them seemed to be very relaxed. A man dressed in black walked to the side of the Shadow Demon. He said to the person inspecting the corpse, "Senior Brother Liu, can we start?" This team was the elite team of 10 Liu Chen was leading. Liu Chen smiled at the person behind him. "Brother Pang, there is no need to be anxious. This is the first time we have seen a shadow demon. It would be good to research for a little." Lu Ruyu walked over slowly. She said somewhat worriedly, "I suspect the blood demons sensed us the moment we entered this subspace. I believe every team has been attacked like this." Liu Chen's handsome face did not reveal any expression of astonishment. He said, "This space is the manifestation of the blood demons. It is not just a belief, everyone definitely was attacked." Lu Ruyu frowned slightly. "You do not seem worried. The blood crows are not your regular rank 4 demonic beasts. Furthermore, the shadow demons are controlling them." Liu Chen muttered to himself for a while. Then he slowly took out a metal piece from the shadow demon's heart. The metal piece was covered in black incantation words. There was a large amount of black aura surrounding it. Liu Chen did not answer Lu Ruyu's question. Instead, he revealed a smile of amazement. "Interesting. So that is how the blood demons control their subordinate clans." Liu Chen carefully put away the metal piece and stood up. He said, "Senior Sister Ruyu, you have given your disciple a divine flame talisman. He will be fine. The other people were originally going to be used as high-leveled cannon fodder. Why the need to worry about them?" As Liu Chen said this, he had an incomparably calm expression on his face. It was as though it was normal, like he was speaking of an insignificant matter. The 100 core disciples were like ants in their eyes. There were only several dozen kilometers to the entrance of the forest. However, Xiao Chen and the others walked for half a day before they arrived at the forest entrance with much difficulty. They now understood why young Kashin said to never let their essence be completely exhausted. Along the way, they would meet a group of demonic beasts every 10 minutes. The demonic beasts were at least medial grade rank 5 demonic beasts. They had strength equivalent to a peak martial saint. Furthermore, the strength of demonic beasts was increased by 1 or 2 levels compared to the Tianwu continent. They were very problematic to deal with. That was not the most important thing. The most problematic thing was that there were 5 injured people in the team who had just recovered their ability to move and 1 unconscious person. In order to take care of these injured people, Xiao Chen, Zhong Lai, and Mu Heng had nearly lost their lives in the process. Mu Heng tossed the unconscious Gao Yong on the ground. He panted for a little and said, "We finally reached this stupid forest. I really don't want to carry this rotten person anymore." "Yi Chen, thank you all," the 5 injured people said in some embarrassment. On this journey, it could be said they were complete burdens, and they knew it in their hearts. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "We are all from the same sect. Now, we are comrades. There is no need to thank me for looking out for each other." To Xiao Chen, this was indeed something he did not need to be thanked for. Although he was not some noble person, if he was able to, he would not abandon this group of people. Xiao Chen saw that Zhong Lai was recovering his essence, so he did not disturb him. He told Mu Heng, "Look after them for a while, I will go and check out the forest." Mu Heng nodded, "All right. Be careful though. The dense forest normally did not have any people walking in it. There were bushes and weeds everywhere. There was no complete path." Xiao Chen turned his spiritual sense into a ring and expanded it out. As the purple thunder divine incantation advanced, his knowledge of how to use spiritual sense improved. In an instant, everything within 1,000 meters was scanned by Xiao Chen. There were no demonic beasts within 1,000 meters. He could not even feel the aura of a demonic beast. The surroundings were incredibly quiet. Even the air was not flowing. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense. Then he jumped down a tree and muttered, "That is strange. Why is it so quiet?" Xiao Chen executed the Azure Dragon Cloud soaring art. He decided to see for himself. There were some things that he had to see for himself. He seemed to have turned into a flood dragon, piercing through the dense air. Xiao Chen moved around rapidly in the forest as he kept swinging his lunar shadow saber. Stands of saber chi shattered the bushes before him into dust, carving out a path in front of him. He did not cover up his presence, making a lot of noise. He was moving back and forth in this silent forest. However, there were no reactions from any demonic beasts. Xiao Chen stopped and looked around again. There was still no activity. Never mind. It's good that there is no demonic beast. After the others rest for a night, they should recover their combat prowess. After Xiao Chen made up his mind, he executed the lightning evasion. A bolt of lightning flashed in the air. In an instant, he arrived back at the entrance of the forest. When Zhong Lai, who had recovered most of his essence, saw Xiao Chen coming out, he got up and asked, "How was it? What is the situation like in there?" Xiao Chen shook his head, "A little strange. I did not see any demonic beasts. It is overly quiet. When we go in, we should be careful." Zhong Lai laughed, "Quiet is good. I am here to kill demons. In the end, we did not even see any. I feel a headache every time I see a demonic beast." Under Xiao Chen's lead, the team entered the forest. After they settled down, they quickly started treating their wounds. After a long time, it should have been about midnight in the Tianwu continent. In this strange space, the scarlet full moon hung high in the air all the time. The sky remained gloomy forever, no one was used to it. After being constantly on the move for the whole day, the injured people had all entered dreamland long ago. Xiao Chen, Zhong Lai, and Mu Heng did not dare to sleep. They looked for some wood to start a fire, then started to chat with one another. The dancing flames shined a flickering light on their faces. Zhong Lai looked at the distant red full moon above him. Suddenly, he said, "Do you guys feel that the moon is slightly brighter than when we first arrived?" When Xiao Chen and Mu Heng heard this, they raised their head to take a look. Indeed, it was as Zhong Lai said. Initially, the full moon was only dark red. Now, it had turned scarlet. The scarlet glow looks extremely horrifying. Mu Heng retracted his gaze and his lips curled up. He said with indifference in his voice, "How is whether the moon is red or not important? How ridiculous." Zhong Lai smiled and said, "I was just saying it casually. This is not ridiculous. Damn it. Give me a demon to practice on. It's better than sitting here." However, Xiao Chen's gaze was fixed on the full moon hanging in the sky. This was his first time looking clearly at the round red moon. In the end, he felt that it was somewhat strange. That red felt like it was alive. However, it was too far away, that feeling was too vague. Xiao Chen did not dare to be sure about it. Sha. Sha. Suddenly Xiao Chen heard the sound of movement. Xiao Chen retracted his gaze and said, "Something is happening. The two of you stay here first, I'll go take a look." By the time Mu Heng and Zhong Lai heard that, Xiao Chen already vanished completely. Zhong Lai sighed and said, "His strength is getting harder and harder to see through. His speed is no slower than your 7 stars transposition." Mu Heng shook his head and said, "That is different. The 7 stars transposition technically cannot be a movement technique, it should be a kind of martial technique. Hence, there is no way to compare them." Within a few breaths of time, Xiao Chen arrived at the place where the sound came from. A familiar white figure appeared within his vision. It was Yun Kashin. Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. The blood crows were indeed not a threat to her. He rushed in front of Yun Kashin and was about to say something. However, she started to fall forward. Xiao Chen was mildly startled. He quickly rushed forward to support her and discovered a ghastly wound on her back. A long bleeding wound stained her white clothes scarlet. Yun Kashin was now unconscious. Xiao Chen had no other choice than to carry her and rush back. Zhong Lai looked at the unconscious Yun Kashin. He said in astonishment, "Yu Kashin is actually so heavily injured. A peak rank 4 demonic beast should not be able to do this to her." Everyone had seen Yun Kashin's strength for themselves. Furthermore, what they saw was only the tip of the iceberg. Xiao Chen himself did not dare to say he could defeat Yun Kashin. A demonic beast that Yun Kashin could not handle. Even Xiao Chen would find it difficult. Liu Heng muttered, "What do we do now? What should we do next? Aside from her, none of us know the details of this mission. Will we be stuck here?" Xiao Chen was currently dealing with Yun Kashin's wounds. When he heard this question, he felt a headache coming on. He had agreed to Liu Tianyu's request to kill the demon general. However, he would not be able to do that if he was stuck here. Xiao Chen crushed a blood replenishing pill and applied it on Yun Kashin's wounds. Then he took out another blood replenishing pill. Xiao Chen was about to place it in Yun Kashin's mouth when the girl in embrace suddenly moved. She opened her eyes and said weakly, "Thank you." Xiao Chen was happy when he saw her wake up. He smiled and said, "Deal with your wounds first. We can speak about other things later." After 4 hours, Yun Kashin stopped circulating her energies. Some color returned to her face. Without waiting for the team to ask, she said, "After I killed the Blood Crow King, I was sneak attacked by a demon." A strange light flashed in Zhong Lai's eyes. He quickly asked, "What about the demon?" "Killed by me." Yun Kashin took out a shadow demon's corpse from her spatial ring. This is a shadow demon. It is one of the subordinate clans under the Royal Blood Demon clan in the demonic world. After that, Yun Kashin spoke about the shadow demon's specialties in combat, introducing them all one by one to everyone. Then she answered some questions Zhong Lai had regarding demons. Yun Kashin took the map back from Xiao Chen. After that, she pointed to the foot on the mountain behind the forest. "We need to go through that forest by tomorrow evening and gather with the other teams at the foot of the mountain." Zhong Lai felt it was strange, so he asked, "Senior Sister Yun, where did you get this map from? Did someone enter this subspace before we did?" Yun Kashin put the map away properly before saying, "We can see the situation of the subspace from the reincarnation well. However, we are only able to observe the rough situation. We can't see what demonic beasts are in this forest." They spent the night in silence. When the sky was bright, or at least the sky of the Tianwu continent was, the injuries of the group had more or less recovered after resting for a night and with the aid of the blood replenishing pill. In this subspace, the sky was always dark red, causing their perception of time to be a little hazy. Gao Yong had just opened his eyes and saw Yun Kashin looking at him expressionlessly. He was startled and muttered, "Senior Sister Yun." "Ah." Yun Kashin interrupted him in a cold voice, "If there is a next time, I will kill you personally." At this point in time, the others had already risen and saw this scene. They were not compassionate to Gao Yong. If it were not for Gao Zhang's recklessness, they would not be in such a miserable state. Xiao Chen stopped cultivating and opened his eyes. He looked at Yun Kashin and said, "I will scout forward and check the situation out. All of you should wait here first." Yun Kashin stopped Xiao Chen and said, "Don't go out there alone. We will move together. This forest is extremely weird. It is best for us to stay together." "That seems to make sense." If anything happened suddenly, I might not be able to deal with it alone. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen did not argue about it. Under Yun Kexin's lead, everyone moved carefully in this dark forest. After recovering their combat prowess, everyone was able to move much faster. In 1 hour, they managed to reach the end of the path Xiao Chen carved out yesterday. Xiao Chen drew his lunar saber shadow and sent out a few strands of saber chi. The electric light flickered in the forest. It immediately turned a large patch of bushes in front of them into powder. Everyone was astonished. They did not expect a few casual strands of saber chi from Xiao Chen would have such destructive power. He was much stronger than a regular peak inferior grade martial saint. Xiao Chen said, "I scouted this far yesterday. I am not clear of the situation from here on." Yun Kashin nodded and said, "This should be the boundary between the core area of the forest and its peripheries. We cannot afford to be careless from here on. Yi Chen, continue to open a path for us." Rumble. Xiao Chen's saber chi reduced the bushes and thorny undergrowth in front of them to dust. Just like that, Xiao Chen forcibly carved a path out for everyone. After walking for another 500 meters, the crowd did not run into any danger. The expressions of Zhong Lai and the others could not help but relax a little. However, Yun Kexin's expression turned even graver. "Be careful, do not be careless. Otherwise, you might lose your life at any time." When Yun Kashin saw that there were people letting down their guard, she reminded them. However, they did not meet with any danger along the way. The team did not take Yun Kexin's words to heart, they only became a little more alert. Pu Si. After they walked several kilometers, when the team's guard was at its lowest, countless scarlet tree branches broke through the air like sharp swords. They headed for the team very quickly. Yun Kashin, who had always kept her guard up, immediately drew her saber and hacked the tree branches into half. The broken tree branch fell to the ground. The sudden change in situation caught the others unprepared. 2 people who died as a result of the tree branches glowing with a red light piercing through their hearts. The instant the tree branches appeared, Xiao Chen immediately extended out his spiritual sense. He saw a black figure flash back behind a tree 500 meters away. Xiao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense and looked at the group. He executed the Azure Dragon Cloud soaring art and sent out an arc of light in the air. The purple saber chi destroyed most of the surrounding tree branches with a shua sound. Yun Kashin was not slow to react, either. Her saber trembled in the air and the tree branches flying over in the air seemed like they were stopped by a formless energy. Then, they all fell to the ground noisily. Xiao Chen was no stranger to these strange branches. He moved to Yun Kexin's side and said, "There are tree spirits in this forest. Furthermore, they are here in great numbers." "I know," Yun Kashin said calmly. "We have to quickly find the position of the tree spirits. Otherwise, they will be very difficult to deal with." Tree spirits were very difficult plant-type demonic beasts to deal with. They were hidden within the forest. If they did not attack, it would not be possible to differentiate tree spirits from ordinary trees. Gao Yong revealed an anxious expression. "How hateful, there is no way to locate the tree spirits. We are going to get trapped here and die." Bang! Suddenly, Xiao Chen made a move. A dazzling saber light condensed on his snow-white saber. Then he hacked a tree next to him in half with a loud boom. "Yi Chen, what are you doing?" Zhong Lai stood at the side and asked, feeling doubtful. Xiao Chen kept moving. Soon, 4 or 5 big trees on both sides were completely hacked into half. After that, Xiao Chen chopped down more and more trees. The crowd, who originally did not understand what was going on, finally understood what Xiao Chen was doing. Since he could not differentiate them, then he would chop down all the surrounding trees. He would be bound to meet a hiding tree spirit. After a while, all the trees in the group's surrounding were all chopped down. However, they did not encounter any tree spirits. However, the group's field of vision improved. When Gao Yong saw the situation, he could not help but want to go over to help. However, this time, he was not in a rush to make a move. He asked Yun Kashin for her opinion first. Yun Kashin thought for a while, then nodded to indicate agreement with Gao Zhang's thoughts. Gao Yong was not weak. Furthermore, the characteristics of his martial technique was very suitable for fighting with tree spirits. After he discovered a tree spirit, he could rely on the ferocious martial techniques of Qianduan Peak to kill the tree spirit. Who? Gao Yong drew the huge saber from his back and revealed an excited expression. He pushed his feet off the ground and shouted before landing beside a huge tree. The huge saber carried a huge force as he hacked it toward the tree. Bang! There was a loud sound, but strangely enough, this tree was not broken by Gao Yong. Gao Yong revealed a surprised expression. He could not figure out what was going on. During the instant he was feeling suspicious, a face suddenly appeared on huge tree trunk. It opened its mouth and cried out in pain. The tree shook violently and 3 branches moved down and picked up Gao Yong like hands. Then they carried him toward its huge mouth. Gao Yong could not react to it in time. He struggled heavily in midair, making a lot of noise. However, there was nothing he could step on. Xiao Chen found such a scene funny. He had chopped down hundreds of trees and yet he not run into any tree spirits. The moment Gao Yong made a move, he found a tree spirit. He did not know if such luck was good or bad. Lightning evasion. Xiao Chen shouted and a bolt of lightning struck somewhere beside Gao Yong. Xiao Chen appeared and there was a flash of cold light on his lunar shadow saber as he chopped off the 2 branches grabbing onto Gao Yong. Gao Yong immediately landed, his expression furious. His huge saber lit up with a fiery red glow and he hacked toward the tree spirit's dark mouth. Hu Kai. Suddenly, 2 roots extended out from the ground. They caught the inattentive Gao Zhang's foot and hoisted him back into the air. Boom! The surging saber light changed direction and hacked on another tree. That tree instantly went up in flames and turned into ashes. This showed how horrifying the might of his saber was. However, Xiao Chen could not be bothered with him. This person was typical of a muscle brain, strong combat prowess, but insufficient intelligence. Pooh! A scarlet tree branch shot out from the tree spirit's mouth and pierced through the air. It caused a sonic boom as it arrived before Xiao Chen in an instant. Xiao Chen had experienced this move back when he was in the gloomy forest. At that time, he could only dodge. However, this move was now no longer worth mentioning in front of him. Drawing the saber. There was a flash of cold light and the faster-than-sound tree branch was chopped in half down the middle. Even though it was fast, Xiao Chen was faster. Flight on wings, 1-line chop. Break for me. The light on the snow-white saber blade was withdrawn. Xiao Chen moved very fast in the air. The few tree branches that were grabbing at him only grabbed thin air. Xiao Chen flashed by the tree spirit. After a moment, the tree spirit was broken down the middle with a loud boom. Then, it turned back into an ordinary tree. After the tree spirit died, the tree roots grabbing onto Gao Yong fell down with him. He removed the 2 tree roots on his ankle, feeling very depressed. However, when he saw Xiao Chen continuing to move around, he could only perk himself up and stand up. After that, the 2 of them continued to use the same method to chop down all the trees in the surrounding. They found the hidden tree spirits hiding amongst the trees one by one. After the previous experience, Gao Yong had learned his lesson. Before he attacked, he would pay attention to the tree branches on the ground and in the air. Only when he got near would he strike with all his might. Fire-attributed essence was the natural nemesis of the tree spirits. In addition to the ferocious martial techniques of Qiantuan Peak, Gao Yong could easily kill a tree spirit on his own. As for Xiao Chen, it was even easier for him. He was moving around in the air tracelessly. The branches of the tree spirit could not catch him at all. After he got near to them, he would split them in twain with his saber. Although tree spirits were hard to deal with, they were only peak rank 4 demonic beasts. If they were not hidden, they did not have much advantage over a martial saint. Soon, Kashin and the others joined in. After 4 hours, the surrounding tree spirits were all flushed out and completely destroyed. When a Gangyu Peak disciple saw the 2 dead disciples, he had a sullen expression on his face. That is unfortunate, senior brother Liu and junior brother Wang, they died an undeserved death. Their deaths were indeed undeserved. If they had not let down their guards, they could have dodged the sudden attack of the tree spirit. Unfortunately, that was just an if. After they rested a while and recovered their essence, the team continued on. This time, everyone took Yun Kexin's words to heart. They kept their guard up at all times. After all, there was already an example of what could go wrong earlier. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense turned into a halo and expanded out into the surroundings. It scanned the surroundings, but did not discover anything. He muttered to himself, "That's strange, why did that black figure not appear? Never mind, he will turn up in the end. I just have to keep an eye out," Xiao Chen muttered as he withdrew his spiritual sense. The instant he withdrew his spiritual sense, a ball of black smoke came out from the ground. An incredibly pale person slowly appeared. He muttered to himself, "What a strong perception, I was nearly discovered. I have to be more careful, otherwise, I would not be able to accomplish Master's mission." Another 9 balls of black smoke appeared from the ground again. One of the shadow demons could not resist asking, "Big brother, it is just some human martial saints. Is there a need for us to be so cautious?" The first shadow demon to come out revealed a look of anger on his face. He scolded, "Shut up. I already said this before they run into the scarlet demonic snake, you are not allowed to make a move. Yet, you still dare to disobey my orders and controlled the tree spirits to make a move." A horrifying killing chi was emitted from this being. The shadow demon who spoke could not help but tremble. He did not dare to speak again. In the dark forest, then shadow demons appeared before a man dressed in blood-colored clothes in an extremely deferential manner. However, when the clothes were observed carefully, they were not clothes at all, they were blood that was squirming around. His face, even his entire figure, seemed blurry. The Scarlet Man said in a hoarse voice, "I remember saying to make a move when they were at the Scarlet Demonic Snake. I only left for a while. Who made this decision?" One of the shadow demons could not help but feel dread. He knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice, "Master, I acted blindly without thinking. I wanted to take all of them down and present them to Master. It is not Big Brother's fault." The Scarlet Man said, "Never mind, hand me the 2 corpses. When they reach the Scarlet Demonic Snake, make a move. These people are not ordinary humans. If you do not have complete confidence, don't reveal yourselves. Remember, within this space, every one of you that dies weakens the Lord Demon General. You are all living for the Lord Demon General, not for yourselves." The shadow demon kneeling on the ground thanked the man repeatedly, like he was being given a general pardon. "Thank you, Master, thank you, Master. Here are their bodies. After we dug them up, we used a secret technique to preserve them, they are very fresh." The Scarlet Man laughed a few times, then he pointed at the corpse with his finger. After a while, the blood in the corpse poured out and moved to the body of the man. A red glow flickered incessantly. The blood on the surface of the man was bubbling relentlessly. After a while, the 2 corpses stood up slowly. The scene was incredibly weird. These 2 were originally Heavenly Saber Pavilion Corps disciples. Yet, They faced the Scarlet Man and said in a trembling voice without focus in their eyes, "Moss. Tear. Pretty good material. It was worth my effort to remold you." The Scarlet Man laughed strangely. He shot out 2 scarlet beads of blood at the 2 of them. Blood Clan's secret technique, small demonic change. The scarlet bead of blood entered into their foreheads instantly. The originally pale faces of the 2 could be visibly seen gaining luster, the light in their eyes was turning brighter. The wounds on their bodies melded together, they were indistinguishable from ordinary people. Their eyes were full of respect as they looked at the Scarlet Man and said, "Master, what are your orders?" The Scarlet Man waved his hand and said to the leader of the Shadow Demons, "I will hand over control of these 2 blood corpses to you temporarily. After you complete your mission, bring all of them back. Especially the girl in white cloth and the man with purple light on his body. The 2 of their bodies must be complete. They must not be missing arms or legs. It would be best if you can capture them alive." "Yes, Master, I will complete definitely Master's instructions." After Xiao Chen and the rest dealt with the tree spirits, they drew closer and closer to the core area of the forest. Eventually, they were obstructed by demonic beasts. However, with the aid of Xiao Chen's spiritual sense, they were prepared in advance. It could be said that they were not in any real danger. Gao Yong used his saber to retrieve a rank 5 demonic core from a demonic beast. There was a satisfied expression on his face. He laughed and said, "Even if I can't kill any demons, these demonic cores are enough already. There will be no problem in changing these for more than 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones. If only there were peak rank 5 demonic beasts." The value of a demonic core was no lower than that of a spirit core. In fact, it was even slightly higher. Furthermore, the higher the rank of the demonic core, the difference in price would be greater than the increase for a spirit core of the same rank. A normal complete rank 5 demonic core was worth 100 inferior grade spirit stones. A peak rank 5 demonic core was worth 1,000 inferior grade spirit stones. As for a rank 6 demonic core, it was worth 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Then the price of a peak rank 6 demonic core would increase explosively to a horrifying level. It would require 100,000 inferior grade spirit stones. However, along the way, they only met with early rank 5 demonic beasts. They were about as strong as a human medial grade martial saint. There were also some middle rank 5 demonic beasts as well. However, they did not run into any peak rank 5 demonic beasts. Liu Heng cursed, "You really have a foul mouth. A peak rank 5 demonic beast is about as strong as an inferior grade martial king. Furthermore, they are even stronger in this space. They would be as strong as a medial grade martial king at the very least. If we really ran into one, it is unsure if we could escape safely. Yet you are thinking of killing it. You must be tired of living." Gao Yong put away the demonic core and smiled in embarrassment. "I was just saying it. We won't really run into one. Even if we really ran into one, my huge saber is not there for nothing." The demonic beasts they met along the way allowed Gao Yong an avenue to exhibit his strength. It had to be said that the Qiantuan Peak's martial techniques were indeed extremely ferocious. Even a middle rank 5 demonic beast found the full-powered strike of the medial grade martial saint Gao Yong difficult to deal with. When a early rank 5 demonic beast was struck by him, it would be severely injured. His all-out battle style changed everyone's impression of him. It was not as bad as it was before. Xiao Chen laughed and ignored the bickering of the 2. He had also received a pretty good harvest. He had killed 20 early rank 5 demonic beasts by himself and a middle rank 5 demonic beast. If he changed all the demonic cores for spirit stones, he would have 2 or 3,000 inferior grade spirit stones. When Xiao Chen saw young Kashin standing at the side at high alert, he felt it was strange. He asked, "Senior Sister Yun, Are you not extracting any demonic cores? Yun Kashin said indifferently, rank 5 demonic cores cannot be changed for a lot of spirit stones. Just distribute it amongst yourselves, there is no need to care about me. Everyone was sweating inside. These cores were worth a few thousand inferior grade spirit stones. Yet, Yun Kashin did not care about them at all. How strange. After they cleared up the battlefield, Xiao Chen continued to scout out their path. By now, everyone knew Xiao Chen had a kind of sensory martial technique. So, they felt assured letting Xiao Chen scout ahead. After a while, Xiao Chen suddenly stopped. His originally calm face had an extremely grave expression on it. When Yun Kashin saw that there was something wrong with Xiao Chen's expression, she asked, "What's wrong? Is there a demonic beast blocking the way?" Xiao Chen nodded silently. He smiled bitterly and said, "Those foul words came true. There is a demonic beast in front and based on its aura, it is at least a peak rank 5 demonic beast. It might even be an early rank 6 demonic beast." When everyone heard that, their complexions drained. They all looked at Gao Yong with a murderous look. Zhong Lai said in a bad mood, "Here is your chance to perform. Go kill it. We will be waiting here for you. Good news." Gao Yong said embarrassedly, "I was really just saying it casually, you can't blame me for this." Yun Kexin's expressions did not change. She simply asked calmly, "Can you tell what demonic beast it is? Are we able to go around it?" Xiao Chen shook his head, "I can't make out what demonic beast it is, I can only tell you that it is a huge snake. The area which its aura covers is very vast. If we want to move around it without startling it, it would take at least a day. Because some demonic beasts had very strong auras, it would result in blurry images when using spiritual sense. Hence, Xiao Chen was not able to make out what demonic beast it was." Yun Kashin thought for about 10 seconds before making a quick decision. "Since we can't go around it, then we will fight it. Niu Heng, Zhong Lai, Gao Yong, and Yi Chen come with me. The rest will wait here for further orders." Of the remaining 8 people, these 5 people were the strongest. The other 3 people were slightly weaker, they would not be able to deal with a peak rank 5 or rank 6 demonic beast. Sometimes, if there were too many people, they would not be able to gain a huge advantage. They might even drag the rest down. The 3 of them also understood Yun Kexin's intentions. They did not express any dissatisfaction and conscientiously remained at their original spot. Under the lead of Yun Kashin, the 5 of them carefully walked towards the unknown demonic beast. As they closed in, the aura and pressure of a peak rank 5 demonic beast grew more and more obvious. It was even starting to be difficult to breathe. Gao Yong had an unsightly expression as he said, "This might not be a peak rank 5 demonic beast. We might be dealing with a rank 6 demonic beast here. It is impossible for the aura of a rank 5 demonic beast to reach such a horrifying level. It is already at the point where we feel suffocated." Zhong Lai smiled faintly, "In that case, what do you suggest? If you are afraid, no one will care about you." Gao Yong rebutted, "When did I say I was afraid? I was simply stating a fact." Before the fight started, the 2 of them already started arguing. Yun Kashin frowned heavily and said in a cold voice, "All of you, shut up. We haven't even started fighting yet and you are already arguing. You are throwing yourselves off, are you tired of living?" Yun Kexin's words were very effective. After she spoke, Zhong Lai and Gao Yong immediately shut up. They only glared at each other. "Yi Chen, what do you think are our odds of victory?" Yun Kashin turned around and asked Xiao Chen, who was leading the way. Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, "If it was a peak rank 5 demonic beast, we have a 50% chance. If it is an early rank 6 demonic beast, we would likely only have a 40% chance of victory." Actually, there was one more thing Xiao Chen had not said yet. If he included the dark figure hiding in the darkness sneak attacking them, their odds of victory would become even lower. An expression of worry flashed on young Kexin's delicate face. She muttered, "I hope it is only a peak rank 5 demonic beast then." Rumble. Just at this moment, the ground suddenly started to tremble. They all circulated their energies to stabilize themselves, as well as becoming more alert. Ka-ca. Ka-ca. The sound of trees breaking echoed in everyone's ears. Unfortunately, they could clearly feel a large creature getting close to them at a high speed. Young Kashin calmly said, "Danger, retreat." They all executed their movement techniques, retreating into the forest. Hu Kai. A black shadow headed for the slowest person, Mu Heng. Mu Heng's body lit up with purple light and he shouted, "7 stars transposition." He instantly vanished and appeared on the top of a tree. Bang! There was a very loud sound. A huge deep pit appeared on the flat ground in the next instant. It was about 10 meters wide and several hundred meters long. As for its depth, it could not be estimated with the eyes. Mu Heng took in a breath of cold air. If this had struck him, no matter how strong his body was, he would have suffered significant internal injuries. Simply thinking about it made him shiver. Taking advantage of this opportunity, everyone took a clear look at the demonic beast. It was black snake about 200 meters long. Its scales were flashing with a cold black light. Half its body was upright, its scarlet eyes were like 2 bright lanterns in the dark night sky. Its huge mouth opened as its forked tongue stuck out repeatedly. When half its body was upright, it was more than 100 meters tall, taller than the trees in the forest. Everyone was like an ant in front of it. Xiao Chen was startled. He muttered, "This is the scarlet-crowned snake. No, that's not right, a crown has not grown yet. It is still immature. Even so, after it became a demonic beast, it has the strength of an early rank 6 demonic beast." When the scarlet demonic snake saw Mu Heng suddenly disappearing, it seemed very angry. Its scarlet eyes swept through the land in front of it. Then, it saw Gao Yong, who was holding a huge eye-catching saber. "Damn it, stop staring at me," when Gao Yong said depressedly when he felt the gaze of the scarlet demonic snake. He quickly retreated. Who? The scarlet demonic snake's huge body sprang up from the ground. It was not in the least bit slow. Its huge jaw was open, it was intending to swallow Gao Yong. Gao Yong was startled, he did not expect the scarlet demonic snake to be so fast. When the mouth was near, he rolled to the side, dodging it. However, before he could catch a breather, the red tongue in the scarlet demonic snake's mouth shot out, heading toward Gao Yong. Lonely Peak's fatal blow. At a crucial moment, Zhong Lai executed the 15th move of the Lingyun saber technique. The saber light that filled the sky turned into a huge peak descending from the sky and pressed down on the body of the scarlet demonic snake. Chi. The scarlet demonic snake felt pain and withdrew its tongue. Then, it turned around and spat out a black fireball at Zhong Lai. The black fireball had a long comet tail trailing behind it as it flew in the air. Everywhere it passed, even the air was burnt to nothing. The mountain peak immediately disappeared. His mysterious phenomenon forcibly broken, Zhong Lai vomited a large mouthful of blood. His face was very pale as he fell from the sky. Gao Yong stopped running. He did not expect Zhong Lai, who had been bickering with him, to save him at a crucial moment. When Gao Yong saw Zhong Lai was injured, he shouted, "You damn beast! I will put everything on the line and kill you." 3,000 clouds of fire, covering the sun, infusing into the saber, heavenly fire clouds. 3,000 clouds of flames started burning in the dark red sky. Suddenly, it seemed limitless, covering the sun and clouds. The fierce flames lit up the entire forest. The unending chain of clouds of fire formed into a huge tornado of flames. Then, it flew into Gao Zhang's huge saber. Boom. Instantly, Gao Yong burst into red flames. He now looked like a flame giant. The large flaming saber swung forward fiercely. The red flames howled like a flood dragon. The horrifying temperature caused all the trees within 100 meters to melt. It rushed toward the scarlet demonic snake's head at a fast speed. The scarlet demonic snake's red eyes were flicking repeatedly. It spat out a black fireball from its mouth. It headed for the flames sent out by Gao Yong. Bang! 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 The red flames and black flames met in the middle. The huge energy instantly exploded in the air, causing surging shockwaves to spread everywhere. Everywhere it passed, the ground would be scorched to ash. The two flames starting burning in the air. However, the black flame soon enlarged explosively. Then, it defeated the red flame and rushed at Gao Yong. Gao Yong did not dare to be careless, but he did not retreat either. He sent out flames after flames from his huge saber incessantly. After a few breaths' time, he finally managed to block the flames from the scarlet demonic snake. Swift horizontal saber strike. Just as the scarlet demonic snake wanted to spit out another mouthful of black fire, Mu Heng, who was on top of another tree, suddenly made a move. Mu Heng's body lit up with a purple light, then he quickly moved across the air. His entire being turned into an unparalleled treasured saber. A sharp gleam was radiating off it. It was very dazzling. Bang! Mu Heng used his palm as a saber and hacked on the scarlet demonic snake's head. This was a saber strike that could split mountains, used without holding back. There was a depressed sound and the upright body of the scarlet demonic snake was hacked by this saber strike and knocked to the ground. However, even with all this saber strike did not even break the scarlet demonic snake's skin. The instant the scarlet demonic snake landed, its huge tail gave off a thunderous sound as it tore through the air, smashing at Mu Heng. Mu Heng, who was in the air, had no support to move around. Yet when he saw the scarlet demonic snake's tail swinging at him, he strangely disappeared again. Fu Si. The scarlet demonic snake quickly sensed Mu Heng's location and swung its tail at him again, creating another thunderous sound. The scarlet demonic snake's speed was now faster than before. Mu Heng had a grave expression. He used the 7 stars transposition and flickered around in the air 7 times. Every time he appeared, the tail would be following closely. Each time it happened, it was faster and more dangerous. Spinning mountain destroys clouds. Zhong Lai had eaten a blood-replenishing pill and chi-returning pill. His eyes were filled with an intent to battle as he stood up again. He infused his small perfection saber intent into the Lingyun saber technique. Then, he turned into a lonely mountain peak, creating boundless strong winds. He smashed down on the scarlet demonic snake violently. Mu Heng got a chance to take a breather. He disappeared into the air again, finally managing to shake off the tail following him. When the spinning mountain destroys clouds infused with the small perfection saber intent struck the scarlet demonic snake, the scales which were as hard as iron, were finally broken. The wind was like sabers, causing black blood to spurt out in the air and spraying it all over the forest. Heavenly fire clouds. The huge flaming tornado starting forming in the sky once again. Mu Heng managed to catch a breather. After that, he stood, and his entire body glowed with a purple light. He was like a treasured saber as he attacked again. While they were fighting this early rank 6 demonic beast, the 3 of them did not dare make any probing attacks. They put in their full effort in every attack, executing all sorts of martial techniques. The 3 of them did not care about the exhaustion of their essence at all. They threw everything they had into their attacks. The horrifying rank 6 scarlet demonic snake was unable to do anything to the 3 of them in that short period. The aftermath of the intense fight extended throughout the forest. Flames rushed towards the sky. Shockwaves surged. The sounds of the fight were like thunder. As a result of the fight, the tall trees within 1,000 meters all burned down to nothing. The ground trembled non-stop as deep pits appeared. Xiao Chen and Kashin were in no rush to make a move. The two of them raised their auras with their hands placed on the saber hilts. They watched the battlefield intently, preparing to make a fatal blow. The two of them knew that, while it seemed like the three of them were putting the scarlet demonic snake into a miserable state, it was not severely injured at all. When the three of them exhausted their essence, the situation would turn around. Thus, the two of them waited for the most opportune time to make a move. When they attacked, they had to end the fight in one saber strike. Within the forest, when the three people who stayed behind as the flames rushed to the sky and the shockwaves surged, they felt fear in their hearts, they were terrified. What a horrifying battle! Could they have run into a rank 6 demonic beast? A female Gangyu Peak disciple asked with a face full of worry. One of the others also had a face full of worry. He continued, "That sounds about right. With Yun Kexin's strength, she should be able to hold her ground against a peak rank 5 demonic beast. Adding in the rest, they should have a 50% chance of killing one. Only a rank 6 demonic beast would result in such great activity." The last person said, "An early rank 6 demonic beast is the equivalent of a medial grade martial king. I'm not sure if Yun Kashin and the others can survive. I hope they survive. Otherwise, with our strength, it would be difficult for us to walk out of this forest. Death would be the only path remaining for us." The female Gangyu Peak disciple thought for a while and said, "Should we go and take a look? If something happened, we can help them out." The person to the side said, "Don't be foolish. If it were an ordinary rank 5 demonic beast, it would naturally be better for there to be more people. However, when dealing with peak rank 5 or rank 6 demonic beast, we would only cause trouble. We should wait here for their good news." The group of 3 stopped speaking. They simply waited there anxiously. This fight was a fight that concerned their lives and deaths. "Senior Sister Bai." Suddenly, a sound came from behind them. The female Gangyu Peak disciple felt it was strange. She turned around and discovered the 2 companions who had died earlier were standing there, smiling. "Junior brother Wang. Senior brother Liu. Didn't you two die earlier?" A look of confusion flashed in their eyes. The 2 people walked closer by a few steps and explained, "Our luck was pretty good. We are not sure what happened, either. We suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. The ground where you buried us was quite soft, so we dug ourselves up." "That's right. Where are Senior Sister Yun and the rest?" the 2 of them asked suspiciously. This scene was incredibly strange. They had clearly died. However, they suddenly appeared before them. This made them wonder what was happening. The 3 people exchanged a glance, and they understood each other's thoughts. Then, they began asking some questions. In the end, the 2 of them were able to answer every question without hesitation. After testing them for a long time, the 3 finally believed that these 2 people were the same 2 who died. The female Gangyu Peak disciple revealed a joyful expression as she said, "That's great. The both of you are alive. Senior Sister Yun and the rest are in front. Pu Si." Before this female disciple could finish speaking, a short saber appeared in her chest. The smile on her face froze. A life vanished, just like that. "Junior brother Wang. What are you doing?" one of the others exclaimed as he stepped forward. However, before he took more than a few steps, the other person stabbed him through the back. Before the last, remaining person could react, 4 shadow demons appeared behind him. Each struck once, killing this person without a sound. Hoo. 3 of the shadow demons entered their corpses. After they stretched the bodies, they smiled and said, "Humans are really stupid creatures." The head of the shadow demons looked at the scene of battle in front. He said, "No wonder Master wanted us to make our move while they fought the Scarlet Demonic Snake. The strengths of those people are too strong. Indeed. It is likely the Scarlet Demonic Snake will not be able to deal with them. However, with these new corpses, it should be much easier to deal with them." Bang! Gao Zhang's huge saber carried a boundless flame as he hacked violently on the Scarlet Demonic Snake's huge tail, flying at him. There was an exploding sound. Gao Shang vomited a mouthful of blood and was knocked back. Gao Shang fell to the ground, revealing a pained expression. He could not stand when he tried to do so. Zhong Lai, who was to the side, was also helpless. He simply sat there cross-legged. In the beginning, when his mysterious phenomenon broke, he received a significant amount of injuries. After that, he forcibly carried on fighting, increasing the severity of his injuries. Of the three of them, he was the first to lose his ability to fight. 7 stars transposition, meandering Big Dipper. Mu Heng shouted and drew a circle in the air with his left hand, forming a strange area of chi before him. This caused the black fire the Scarlet Demonic Snake spat at him to bounce back. The Scarlet Demonic Snake was unable to dodge in time. The horrifying black flames struck it and burned its body. Its huge form thrashed on the ground. After Mu Heng used this move, the purple light on his body disappeared completely. His face was incredibly pale, blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. He only managed to slowly stabilize himself after taking a few steps back. Now, Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin exchanged a look. They did not hesitate as the strength they'd been gathering surged up and exploded out. Bellowing heavenly melody, piercing the sky. Yun Kashin shouted and drew her saber. The slender saber started trembling, giving off a long and drawn-out trill. Ding ding. Dang dang. The sound was like thunder, chained together unceasingly before they gathered and formed a heaven-piercing melody. She pointed the saber at the Scarlet Demonic Snake, which had just put out the black fire burning it. A soundwave-like saber chi descended from the sky and entered the Scarlet Demonic Snake. Bang! 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 Sounds similar to thunder came from within the Scarlet Demonic Snake. There were explosions going on inside its huge body, bouncing it up and down on the ground, making the ground tremble. The three who had exhausted their essence were tossed about on the ground. They had to spend a lot of effort stabilizing themselves. 9 skies of Lingyun, twisting road around peak. Xiao Chen gently pushed his feet off the ground and soared into the sky, going higher and higher. The layers of white clouds suddenly began to churn non-stop. Within the white clouds, Xiao Chen was partly hidden. Dang! Suddenly, a crack of thunder came from the churning white clouds. Then, the white clouds all scattered. Xiao Chen moved in an arc, down from the sky. As he descended, the outline of a mountain was being drawn out, starting from the top to bottom, slowly appearing. Clouds shrouded the summit of the mountain. There were all sorts of plants and pavilions. It was like a real mountain had appeared above them. Zhong Lai looked thoughtfully at the mysterious phenomenon Xiao Chen executed. There was a strange light in his eyes as he muttered, "There is a mountain, and there are clouds. Isn't this the real state of mountain and state of clouds? Clouds must be accompanied by thunder, the mountain should have birds, trees, and other plants. They all cannot lack. 9 skies of Lingyun, twisting road around peak. So this is the true 7th move of the Lingyun saber technique. Shua." As Zhong Lai muttered in awe, the great perfection mountain suddenly vanished, merging into Xiao Chen's body. In that instant, Xiao Chen's aura suddenly changed. He had the majesty of the mountain and the whimsical air of the clouds. His saber also became strangely swift. Zhong Lai was stunned for a long time. Then, he suddenly said excitedly, "Twisting road around peak. Twisting road around peak. How laughable. I thought I understood. In the end, I was played." The Scarlet Demonic Snake writhing in pain on the ground felt a dangerous aura. It endured the pain in its body and struck upwards with its huge tail, creating a loud thunderous sound. In the instant its huge tail swung, there were explosions in the air. The shockwaves generated by the explosions caused the chi and blood of the essence depleted, helpless trio on the ground to churn, making them vomit another mouthful of blood. Bang! The saber and snake tail met in the air. A visible shockwave exploded out, spreading like ripples on the surface of the water. Xiao Chen's body was like a mountain. Despite the huge force of the scarlet demonic snake, he did not move at all. There were no signs of him moving back. As a result of the huge force, Xiao Chen's chi and blood churned. He did his best to circulate his essence, his mind remaining clear. He unleashed the mysterious phenomenon that merged into his body via his saber. Pu-si. Wounds appeared all over the tail of the huge serpent. Under the saber, infused with the state of a mountain, the scarlet demonic snake's huge body was knocked into the air. Its black blood fell from the sky like rain, spraying relentlessly with zzz sounds. Xiao Chen's essence trembled and blocked the corrosive black blood. Rumble. The huge scarlet demonic snake fell like a heavy sandbag after Xiao Chen knocked it far away. Then, it rolled for a distance. Its huge hill-sized body made the ground tremble. Su. Xiao China and Yun Kashin did not stop moving. They did not wish to lose this window of opportunity. The life force and recovery of the scarlet demonic snake were astonishing. They could not give it any time to catch a breather. The scarlet demonic snake had already suffered from the relentless attacks from Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, and Gao Yong. However, it did not suffer from any severe injuries. Now that they had heavily injured it after the sneak attack, they naturally had to grab this opportunity and not give it the chance to turn things around. The two of them arrived at the scarlet demonic snake's side instantly and unceasingly launched all sorts of martial techniques. Every saber strike from Xiao Chen would leave a deep wound on the scarlet demonic snake, inflicting incomparable pain. However, when Yun Kexin's slender saber struck its surface, it was only created a shallow wound. It seemed her saber was only a superior grand profound ranked spirit weapon and was unable to break through the defenses of the scarlet demonic snake. Xiao Chen took some time to take out the roaming dragon saber and tossed it to Yun Kashin. He said, "Use my saber first." Yun Kashin nodded thanks, then received the roaming dragon saber. The instant she grasped the saber hilt, a ripple appeared on her calm face. She said in shock, "This is a heaven-ranked spirit weapon." Yun Kexin's firm mental state was temporarily shaken. She was wondering if Xiao Chen had thrown the wrong spirit weapon to her. To think he casually tossed a heaven-ranked spirit weapon over. Bang! A strong wind blew in their faces, and there was a dangerous aura. Yun Kashin recovered her wits and quickly moved to the side, dodging an attack from the scarlet demonic snake. Ever since the scarlet demonic snake had been struck by the two sneak attacks, it was attacked relentlessly by the two of them. It was now thoroughly angered. Its 100-meter-long upper body was drawn upright and it swung its tail in a circle. Its tail actually started to grow longer. It grew longer and longer, as well as sharper and sharper. The sharp snake tail tore through the air, creating a piercing sonic boom as it stabbed at Xiao Chen. Its speed was as fast as lightning, startling Xiao Chen as he quickly retreated backward. Bang! 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 The place where Xiao Chen had been standing exploded. A bottomless pit appeared on the ground. Xiao Chen kept retreating backward continuously, but the nail-like tail was chasing him relentlessly. Very quickly, several bottomless pits had appeared on the ground. Each successive strike of the tail was faster than the one before. Xiao Chen did not even have the time to turn his head around. While the snake's tail was attacking Xiao Chen, the scarlet demonic snake did not wait idly, either. It was launching black fire at Yun Kashin unceasingly. However, Yun Kexin's situation was slightly better than Xiao Chen's. After she obtained the inferior grade heaven-ranked roaming dragon saber, she was able to sweep away the black flames with a full power strike if she was unable to dodge them. Wang. A dragon's roar was heard. Suddenly Yun Kashin stopped dodging and grasped the roaming dragon saber tightly. There was a cold light gleaming on the saber and then it burst out with a boundless radiance. Amidst the radiance, there seemed to be a roaming dragon moving around, circling the saber blade. Bang! There was a flash of saber light and it hacked apart a long black flame into half. Then, she rushed at the scarlet demonic snake without hesitation and with no care for her body. Next to the huge body of the scarlet demonic snake, Yun Kashin was like a baby. The scarlet demonic snake's red eyes were shining like lanterns as it watched Yun Kashin rushing over. A cruel gaze appeared in its eyes as it stopped spitting out black flames. Then, it lunged towards Yun Kashin and tried to swallow her. Yun Kashin nimbly dodged. It was like she had eyes in the back of her head. She turned the saber in her hand and the sharp saber blade severed the incoming forked tongue. When the scarlet demonic snake felt the pain hit, the tail attacking Xiao Chen could not help but slow down. Xiao Chen's senses were very sharp, and he instantly grabbed the opportunity. Flight on wings, one-line chop. The light on the snow-white saber blade withdrew. A cold gleam flashed on it, and it chopped off 3 meters of the long tail. After it fell, Yun Kexin's and Xiao Chen's gazes met by chance, exchanging a smile with each other. Even though it was a strong early rank 6 demonic beast, after it suffered 2 full-powered strikes from peak Earth rank martial techniques, it would still suffer from severe internal injuries. After that, it suffered from the relentless attacks from the 2 of them. Every strike they threw it drew blood, they were not simply for show. When the scarlet demonic snake was attacking relentlessly earlier, that was actually a last-ditch effort. If the 2 of them could have held their ground, the scarlet demonic snake was bound to lose, it was simply a matter of time. If they were not able to hold up under its fierce attacks, then the scarlet demonic snake would be the one to obtain the final victory. Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, and Gao Yong were already no threat to it anymore. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen brandished his saber and exhibited the state of mountain from the Lingyun saber technique to its extreme. He was as stable as a mountain, blocking every attack from the scarlet demonic snake. As for Yun Kashin, who was holding a heaven-ranked spirit weapon, she was creating opportunities to attack without stopping. One person focused on attacking, the other defense. This was a perfect combination. The advantage of the fight was slowly tilting to Xiao Chen's group. The defeat of the scarlet demonic snake was getting closer. Senior brother Mu. Senior brother Zhong. Are you two fine? The 3 heavenly saber pavilion disciples being controlled by the shadow demons suddenly walked over from the side of the battlefield. They had anxious expressions on their faces as they walked up to the 3 of them. Zhong Lai felt it was strange, so he asked, "Why are you here? Did we not tell you to wait over there for us? We saw that the activity here was intense, so we were worried. That's why we rushed over here." The female Gangyu Peak disciple helped up Gao Yong, who was on the ground. Then, she asked, "How is the situation now?" Gao Yong thanked her first, then said, "More or less finished, the scarlet demonic snake is at the end of its ropes. Yi Chen and Yun Kashin should be ending the fight soon." Fu Si. Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin patiently waited for an opportunity. Then they moved together in the air. The streaks of saber lights lit up in the sky and a large amount of black blood spurted out. The huge body of the scarlet demonic snake was attacked at the same spot by both of them, instantly chopped in twain. Heavenly melody explosion. Yun Kashin shouted and the roaming dragon saber trembled in her hand. A formless soundwave type saber chi entered the wound in the scarlet demonic snake's front half. Bang! 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 The sound waves spread throughout the scarlet demonic snake's upper body, creating explosions. The 100 meters of its upper body was badly mutilated. Its main body was dripping with blood now, as dead as it could be. Yun Kashin stretched her hand out and retrieved the scarlet demonic snake's rank 6 demonic core. Then, she casually tossed it to Xiao Chen and said, "This is for you, I don't need this." Xiao Chen stretched his hand out and received it. He was in a little disbelief. This was a demonic core worth 10,000 inferior grade spirit stones. Yet, Yun Kashin tossed it over so casually, as though it was a valueless rock. Yun Kashin explained, "I am not lacking in spirit stones. You can just split it with the rest. As for how to do it, I will leave it up to you." Xiao Chen was not a pretentious person. He nodded and thanked her before putting it away. Yun Kashin was not lacking spirit stones, but Xiao Chen was not either. However, spirit stones were like money. The more there was, the better things would be. Xiao Chen would not tire of having too much. The two of them each consumed a medicinal pill and took out an inferior grade spirit stone before sitting down to recover their energy. They could be considered to have killed this rank 6 demonic beast, blocking their way unscathed. So, they relaxed slightly in their hearts. After a short time, they completely drained all the spiritual energy in the spirit stones. Both of them stood up simultaneously. With their current cultivation realms, an inferior grade spirit stone could only recover about half their essence. However, the two of them knew that there was not enough time for them to continue recovering their essence. So, they did not have any intention to take up more time recovering their essence. When they saw Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin get up, Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, Gao Yong and the 3 people controlled by the shadow demons followed suit. Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, and Gao Yong suffered significant internal injuries. After they had rested for a while, they had only barely suppressed their injuries. Yun Kashin saw that the other 3 people had a strange look in their eyes. Hence, she secretly gave Xiao Chen a look. Xiao Chen was somewhat astonished and used his spiritual sense to scan them. After a while, he understood the situation. "Why did the 3 of you come over? Didn't I say for you to stay there and wait for us?" Yun Kashin asked the 3 people calmly. The female Gangyu Peak disciple answered, "The activity of the fight was too big. We were worried, so we came over." Yun Kashin did not continue to pursue the matter. She said, "Never mind, there is no more danger. However, we cannot continue traveling. We should make a retreat and rest." The 3 people did not suspect her at all. They turned around and headed back the way they came from with Mu Heng and the rest. Pu Si. Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin moved at the same time. The roaming dragon saber in Yun Kashin's hand gleamed with a cold light as it stabbed the heart of a shadow demon from the back. Xiao Chen's figure appeared from nowhere and punched a shadow demon with a huge force. Then the two of them continued to attack. One person with a saber and the other with a fist, striking the final shadow demon. All this happened within the time it took for a spark to fly. The 3 shadow demons simply could not react at all and got hit. Mu Heng and the others could not understand what they were seeing. Senior Sister Yun. Yi Chen. What are you doing? Yun Kashin did not answer their question. Instead, she said indifferently, "You will understand in a while." The 3 people on the ground let out painful hoarse cries. Then, right under Zhong Li's astonished gaze, 3 columns of smoke came out from them. The 3 shadow demons had pained expressions on their faces as they collapsed to the ground. It was clear they had been severely injured. Hu Kai. Seeing their comrades being exposed, the other shadow demons no longer hid themselves and came out from the ground. 7 pale-faced shadow demons appeared suddenly before everyone. 3 shadow demons did not hesitate to launch themselves at Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, and Gao Yong. The remaining 4 started to surround Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin. The two heavenly saber pavilion disciples who became blood corpses also appeared slowly, launching themselves at Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin. A big fight had just finished and they have not rested properly yet. However, they were in danger once again. Especially Mu Heng, Zhong Lai, and Gao Yong, they had not even recovered a quarter of their strength yet. When the three shadow demons attacked, they were immediately in danger. Xiao Chen and Yun Kashin were not in a very good situation either. They both had to deal with two shadow demons each and a blood corpse. Furthermore, they had only recovered half their strength. They could not take out some time to help Mu Heng and the others. The shadow demons' attacks were extremely weird. They were different from the martial techniques of the Tianwu continent. They relied on their bodies to attack and were very direct. They were not fancy at all, more like a demonic beast. However, if it was only so, Xiao Chen would not find it difficult to deal with. The thing that gave him a headache was their movement techniques. They were strangely swift, and there were no weak points to exploit. Occasionally, they would strike one with their sabers, only to discover what they attacked was a clump of formless black smoke. If Xiao Chen could hit them, he was confident of killing them in one strike. Unfortunately, they were everywhere, around him, below him, and above him. It was hard to differentiate the real from the fake. It was extremely troublesome. Then, there were the two heavenly saber pavilion disciples who had been altered into blood corpses. Their strength had increased by 20%. When they were attacked, they could not feel pain, so they continued to attack. I can't hold back anymore. Otherwise, even if I can save myself, Mu Heng and the others will die, Xiao Chen thought anxiously. After Xiao Chen made up his mind, he silently circulated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art as he fought. The bones in his body immediately started to crackle. A layer of golden light slowly appeared on the surface of his body. The strength of the tiger and dragon slowly manifested. Then he stopped attacking, letting a shadow demon attack him without dodging. When the shadow demon saw the change in Xiao Chen's movements, he thought Xiao Chen's essence was exhausted and had revealed a weak point. He smiled malevolently as he stabbed his 5 sharp claws toward Xiao Chen. Keng Chang. The sharp claws tore Xiao Chen's clothes in an instant. However, when they came in contact with his skin, they gave off a metallic sound and could not advance further. What happened? The shadow demon wondered. He felt it was quite odd. Although this attack failed to stab Xiao Chen's heart, the force struck his chest. This jolted his internal organs, and his qi and blood surged. Xiao Chen shouted, and the image of a tiger and dragon flew out from his body. The tiger howled, and the dragon roared. His body immediately filled with a horrifying strength. Fierce tiger leaving the mountains. Before the shadow demon could dodge, Xiao Chen's punch, which carried 6,000 kilograms of force, broke his head. The shadow demon died instantly. When Xiao Chen saw the remained shadow demon and blood corpse rushing over to save him, the qi whirlpool in his dantian spun twice, quickly. A pure and surging lightning attributed essence traveled via his meridians and flowed into the snow-white blade of the lunar shadow saber. Purple light instantly flickered within the dark forest. It was incredibly dazzling. Drawing the saber. This was the first time Xiao Chen infused the pure state of thunder into the rushing thunder saber technique. Dark clouds covered the sky as thunder roared angrily. It was like a massive army marching. Xiao Chen's attribute was lightning. When he became a martial saint, the essence in his body changed completely, becoming pure lightning attributed essence. Under such a state, when Xiao Chen used the rushing thunder saber technique, the strength he could bring out was more powerful than the Lingyun saber technique with the state of mountains and state of clouds. 3 bolts of lightning broke through the night sky and gathered on Xiao Chen's saber. His body flashed in the air, and another shadow demon separated into half instantly. The essence containing the state of lightning was flickering where he was chopped in half, as well as on the wounds. It stayed there without fading for a long time. Arclight chop. Xiao Chen kept moving. Then a chain of thunder crackled in the sky again. The saber drew an arclight in the sky. The blood corpse that tried to run was chopped in half as well. It had no way to resist. Rushing heaven chop. Xiao Chen pushed his feet off the ground, pointed his lunar shadow saber to the sky, and soared upwards. There was no grace to his movements at all, but he surged with a boundless aura. Kai! 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 Xiao Chen's body was like a bolt of lightning, flashing in the sky. With a shua sound, the three shadow demons surrounding Mu Heng and the others were immediately pierced through and killed in that instant. Xiao Chen's body paused in midair, and the chain of thunder stopped. It was like the calm before the storm. It instantly became very quiet. Rushing thunder chop. Xiao Chen shouted. He held his saber with both hands and hacked downwards on the blood corpse attacking Yun Kashin. Pu Si. A resplendent saber light sliced through the air like it was water, appearing from nowhere in the blood corpse's head. In the next instant, the intense electricity in the saber light exploded, creating thunder louder than any that came before. With a shua sound, this blood corpse was hacked into halves by the saber and was turned to nothing by the explosion. Rushing thunder second chain chop. The momentum of the four moves from the rushing thunder saber technique completely unleashed at this moment. Xiao Chen's saber turned the shadow demon into a puddle of blood. He did not even have the time to cry out miserably. The final shadow demon felt fear in his heart. He decisively gave up the attack on Yun Kashin and turned into a ball of black smoke, fleeing quickly. Trying to run. Are you able to do so? Xiao Chen withdrew his saber and stood upright. He snorted coldly when he saw the shadow demon fleeing. A limitless purple flame burned in his right eye. If one looked into his eye, they would see an ocean of flames. The fierce flames gathered together before finally turning into a ball, turning into a strange purple flame in Xiao Chen's right eye. Purple thunder true fire, shoot. The strange flame formed a purple arrow in the air. Like a ray of light, it quietly chased after the shadow demon who fled for more than 1,000 meters. Boom. A horrifying explosion came from the distance. The purple flame discharged and the lightning in the flame released. Countless bolts of lightning filled the space. Aside from Yun Kashin, the others stared at this scene, dumbfounded. They did not dare believe this was real. Xiao Chen withdrew and stood upright. He already expected the strength of the state of thunder infused in rushing thunder saber technique to be very strong. However, he was still astonished at the might it displayed. He believed that if he could completely grasp this saber techniques, aside from some late peak martial saints, he would be unrivaled within the martial saint realm. Xiao Chen withdrew his thoughts and turned around. He discovered Gao Yong holding his chest, lying on the ground in pain. His lips were black, and he trembled. These were the signs of poisoning. Xiao Chen quickly walked over and asked Zhong Lai, "What's going on with him?" Zhong Lai looked very upset. His voice trembled as he explained what happened to Xiao Chen. When the shadow demons suddenly attacked them, the slowest was Gao Yong. Furthermore, his injuries had not yet healed. The claws of a shadow demon pierced his chest. Originally, the wound was not so deep. Gao Yong did not care about it either. He had suffered similar wounds before when he trained outside. With the strength of a cultivator's body, this would not be a life-threatening wound. However, he did not expect there to be a slow-acting poison in the shadow demon's attack. By the time he reacted, the poison had spread throughout his body. He could no longer force it out. Mu Heng asked, "Yi Chen, can you save him?" Xiao Chen shook his head. Under the medicinal pills section in the Compendium of Cultivation, there were pills that would treat poison. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen had not practiced refining them. He had no way to produce one now. Maybe Yun Kashin has a way. Such a thought appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. This feeling was very strange. It was like instinct. Yun Kashin had rushed over long ago. However, she was simply standing by the side, observing Gao Zhang's situation without saying anything. When she felt Xiao Chen's gaze, she shook her head. I do have rank 6 poison antidotes. However, the poison has already permeated the bone marrow and heart vessels. Without a medical sage here personally or an immortal grade holy herb with at least 1,000 years of age, there is no way to save him. When Gao Yong heard this, he did not have a bitter look on his face. Instead, he revealed a gentle expression. He smiled bitterly. I started cultivating at the age of 6 and entered the Heavenly Saber Pavilion at the age of 16. Now, I am 26 and am a medial grade martial saint. I feel unsatisfied, dying like this. Like the final radiance of the setting sun, Gao Zhang's pained expression completely vanished. His complexion started to brighten. He removed the bag from behind him and handed it to Zhong Lai. He muttered, "This is the demonic core I obtained on this trip. I originally thought I could exchange these for medial grade spirit stones and raise my cultivation to peak medial grade martial saint. It seems like I can only let you guys take advantage of me now. The path of a cultivator is rugged. Everyone who walks this path should expect such a day. Let my misfortune be a reminder to you. When in a fight, do not be careless." After Gao Yong spoke, a look of determination appeared in his eyes. Then, he circulated his final dregs of essence and shattered his heart. He chose to end his own life. This was a tragic way to die. Gao Zhang's death made everyone feel somewhat depressed. They felt sympathy and sorrow, and at the same time, they thought of themselves. In the Tianwu continent, the strong ruled. The weak were ants in the eyes of the strong. They would kill if they wanted to. If they were upset, they would trample on your dignity. Under such cruel circumstances, every cultivator would find all sorts of means to cultivate bitterly, seeking the path to grow stronger. However, this path was too arduous. Aside from having to deal with both the open competition and hidden attacks by other humans, they still had to be very careful how they trained, avoiding dying at the hands of demonic beasts or spirit beasts. Life was too fragile on such a path. This mission was a form of training too. Unfortunately, before they even reached the midpoint, 6 people on their team had already lost their lives. Xiao Chen casually summoned a cluster of purple thunder true fire and covered Gao Zhang's body with it. His body immediately began to burn quickly. Burying a body in the forest was already known to be a wrong move. The enemy would only use them. Thus, no one felt Xiao Chen's actions were wrong. As they watched Gao Zhang's body burn, a difficult-to-detect, complicated look flashed in Yun Kashin's eyes. However, it was just a flash, no one noticed it. After a while, Yun Kashin said calmly, "We will rest for an hour. After that, we will continue on our way." Within the forest, similar things happened at other locations. Murong Chong was drifting in the air. Then, a cool breeze blew. After a while, a saber light appeared, and a man in scarlet was torn apart. The blood demon's body could be fixed back together. However, it was unable to do so. It turned into a corpse. No emotions showed on Murong Chong's handsome face. He wiped his saber clean of blood and sheathed it. The pieces of the blood demon's body on the ground suddenly exploded, turning into a puddle of blood, flying everywhere. Behind Murong Chong, there were 2 members of the team with black lips. They had collapsed to the ground with unsightly expressions. They had also been afflicted with the slow-acting poison. It had spread throughout their bodies, and they could no longer be saved. "Senior brother Murong, do you have any way to save my junior brother? He is going to die," a Gangyu Peak disciple asked anxiously. Murong Chong shook his head without saying a thing. Then, he picked up the demon core the blood demon left behind and put it away. He carried his saber and sat, alone, in a corner. He closed his eyes and recovered his energies. TL afterthoughts. I had to put this out here. Although I hated Gao Yong at first, his death gave me the feels. As I was translating this, when I got to the part where he died, I really hoped he would live. I wanted to see a friendship begin with this group.